Hello all, this video is going to look at the Psychology Paper 1 predictions for this summer's exams, so that's 2023. So before we move on to the actual predictions, just make sure that you do not rely on these predictions alone. They're just based on what's come up in previous year's exams. So what I've done is I've looked at all the extended questions, sort of 4 marks and above, and then tried to make my predictions based off what hasn't come up in the most recent years. So as I said, the focus of these predictions is mainly on the extended questions, those sort of more than 4 marks, but make sure you revise all topics. Don't just rely on these predictions, but you can use them just to make sure you've covered these ones in more depth. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at social influence. Now there's 4 topics here that don't seem to have come up very much in previous years. They are the types of conformity and explanations of conformity, the variables affecting conformity, Zimbardo's research into conformity in social roles, and the dispositional explanation for obedience, looking at that authoritarian personality. So again, these are 4 topics that haven't come up very much as extended questions in recent years and may potentially come up this summer. In memory, make sure you're focusing your revision on the factors affecting the accuracy of eyewitness testimony, so misleading information, leading questions, post-event discussion and anxiety. The multi-store model of memory. And again, there might be a short question potentially on the types of long-term memory. So for attachment, there's quite a few topics that could come up. The stages of attachment, identified by Schaefer, looks like it's more likely to be an 8-mark question. Cultural variations in attachment, Bowlby's theory of maternal deprivation, and Remain and orphan studies, especially the effects of institutionalization. Now there's also a number of topics that could come up as shorter questions, so looking at 4 markers. The ones listed here are more likely to be 8-mark, 16-mark questions, but there are some topics that might focus on the short questions. So they might be caregiver interactions in humans. This is usually more of an AO2 style question where they give you that scenario. Multiple attachments and role of the father, and Bowlby's monotropic theory. So they all look like they could come up potentially as more 4-mark questions than extended questions. Now the next topic in psychopathology, again, there's quite a few topics here that haven't come up in recent years. So I'd focus your revision on, alongside everything else, the behavioural approach to treating phobias, so looking at systematic desensitization and flooding. The cognitive approach to explaining depression, so Beck and Ellis's theories. And the cognitive approach to treating depression, so CBT. And also the biological approach to treating OCD, so how we use drugs to treat OCD. Now there's a few topics again that may be more likely to come up as short questions, 4 marks and below. Behavioural, emotional and cognitive characteristics haven't come up very much in recent years. And then maybe a short question on the biological approach to explaining OCD. So focusing on the genetic and the neural explanations. But as I said previously, do not rely just on these predictions. Make sure you're covering everything. But if you have a clear plan of these in your head, it may help you in your exams.